Mr. Stewart, it's a pleasure to serve under your chairship this afternoon. And I do want to thank the honourable member for Mid-Bedfordshire for securing this debate and introducing it the way he did. It won't surprise him to know that I didn't agree with all of what he said, but he does raise valid concerns about the abuse of our visa system and the loopholes within it. And the Liberal Democrats and I are willing to work cross-party with the Conservatives and the Labour government to tackle these issues. We, the Liberal Democrats, believe in a fair and controlled immigration system that works for both our economy and our public services. It must be a system that functions effectively, commands public confidence, and brings benefits to the United Kingdom and its people. The Liberal Democrats want to see a controlled immigration system with a visa system that meets the demands of that economy and public services, but it must go hand in hand with a credible plan to boost domestic skills. However, this country's visa rules can hurt our economy. They can damage families, and they can fail to fully support refugees fleeing conflict, and that is what I will use my time to talk about today. The Lib Dems and I wholeheartedly oppose this government's plans to retrospectively change the right to seek indefinite leave to remain, and I know many Labour MPs do as well. Moving the goalposts in this way violates the fundamental British value of fairness. I'm particularly concerned about the impact that this has on Hong Kongers, who are fundamentally British. Many of them now reside in my constituency of Woking. They are really concerned about the unreasonable financial and language requirements being put on them. I'd welcome the Minister's thoughts and particularly his reassurance he can give to Hong Kongers in my community and across the country. As well as being unfair to the individuals involved, visa requirements can damage our economy. Thousands already contributing to our society and our economy have made an investment in this country. Their firms have made investments in this country. They have offered them jobs knowing what ILR means. But that lack of certainty, changing those goalposts, is massively damaging. I've heard that from businesses in Woking, I've heard that from the Law Society, I've heard that from many others as well. It shouldn't be right or fair to change those rules. Another way the immigration system damages our economy is the level of visa costs charged. The 5-year global talent visa now costs £6,000, 20 times higher than in competitor countries. 20 times higher. Cancer Research UK has said that several pieces of their research have been affected by soaring immigration costs, which have risen by 126% since 2019 and are up to 17 times higher than comparable countries like Australia, France or the United States. The amount that charity has had to pay the government in visa fees or other immigration surcharges has nearly doubled since 2022-23, rising from under 500,000 to almost 900,000 this year. That money could have been enough to train 40 PhD students, and I know where I'd prefer them to be putting their money. A report from Oxford University's Migration Observatory has found that there is very little evidence to suggest that the government's belief that employers will train or rely on domestic staff because of hiking charges. They just don't agree with the government, Mr. Stewart. That's why I urge the government to rule out retrospective changes to ILR and agree transitional arrangements as well. And I urge the government to review visa charges based on genuine benchmarking for other similar countries. Visa rules aren't helping us grow our economy, but they're also undermining the right to family life. British citizens who wish to return to the UK with a foreign-born spouse encounter complex and costly application requirements. The application fee varies depending on whether someone applies in or out of the UK, but can be over £2,000. UK citizens should have the rights to have their family come to the UK, provided that there are proper checks to verify their relationships. The Liberal Democrats think minimum income and asset requirements for those with visas should be structured to ensure that there's no recourse to public funds, rather than they being tied to arbitrary earning levels. Last year, British citizens were required for the first time to present British passports at the UK border or present a certificate of entitlement attached to their non-UK passport. Dual nationals were really hurt last year by this government. The current fee for that certificate for entitlement is £589. At the time, on behalf of the Liberal Democrats, I called on the government to implement a grace period to allow British dual nationals to travel home without being caught out. We had families with children, we had children trying to take exams, we had families with sick relatives were caught out by not only the government's rules, but their refusal to compromise and adapt based on a poor information campaign. This was not, the Home Office did not listen to us, and I hope they start to listen to us again. Finally, the other issue that I worry about, Mr. Stewart, is this country's approach to visas can undermine our very humanity. We should be welcoming those fleeing war and supporting them when they're here. I'm proud that my constituency of Woking has welcomed over 500 Ukrainians who have fled their homeland following Vladimir Putin's appalling illegal invasion of Ukraine. I hear from Ukrainians that as well as being anxious about their homeland, about what's happening to their friends and family back in Ukraine, they're also anxious about their immigration status here in the UK. The Liberal Democrats and I think that the government should automatically extend visas for Ukrainians already granted the right to be here and stay in the UK. It's vital that we remove that uncertainty that hangs over those families and children. I will.
Thank you very much for raising that, and he and I have exchanged these issues before, both Hong Kongers and Ukrainians. But the point I just wanted to mention was we often talk about the Boris wave and about the large numbers of immigrants that came to this country, but the truth is that within those large numbers there is a good 500,000 people that we wanted to come to this country, that we invited, be they Hong Kongers or Ukrainians, Afghans or others, on humanitarian visas. And so would he agree with me that the language that we use and the numbers that we talk about need completely reframing so that we recognise those humanitarian visas which the vast majority of the British population support?
Thank you, Mr. Stewart. I do completely agree with the honourable member. I think what is key that he takes up with his government, who seems to be more focused on, rather than agreeing with our quite welcoming rhetoric, to tackle the hatred that is from the Reform Party. So I agree with him, and I think he needs to take up with his ministers rather than with me as the spokesperson for the Liberal Democrats. Or he might be risking crossing the floor if he is not careful. Ukrainians are the only humanitarian visa scheme that doesn't have that pathway to permanent settlement. I would hope the Minister will start to correct that injustice. And in conclusion, Mr. Stewart, everything about this country, apart from its weather, should be fair. But our visa system is not fair, and it's not working for this country and the people in it. My colleagues from Harpenden, Horsham, Twickenham and Richmond Park have shown real-life examples of that unfairness and failure. I urge the Minister to start correcting that.